This is not my first Mother's Day without my mom. That was last year. She died last March, and she was 93 years old. And when you're in your 90s, no death is unexpected, but for my mom, she had cancer and dementia and had buried both of her husbands, all of her brothers, and most of her friends. So life really had very little joy left for her. So I think I was still relieved that she was out of pain as much as anything else when last Mother's Day came by. And there are so many logistics for memorial services for our family because the way we are. My mom was in Albany when she died, near my brother and his family, but she wanted to be buried in Corning next to my dad. So we had to get her there. My brother took care of that, and my side of the family, I have one son who's still in Rochester and my ex-wife who wanted to be there for the memorial service as well. Plus, I also had another son in Syracuse, another son in Virginia, and my daughter was in school outside of Pittsburgh. So there's a whole bunch of logistics to work out for us. And it turned out that I had to go and drive down to Pittsburgh, pick up my daughter, spend the night at my cousin's house, who lives near where my daughter goes to school, and then drive the next day to Corning for the memorial. Which was fine in a lot of ways because I was working on my eulogy on the drive to pick up my daughter. I had it written for a while, and I was practicing it while I was driving down. It was a good eulogy. It was true. It was interesting. But as I was driving past Erie down to get her, I was working on it, and there was a spot where I kept on saying, I need to remember to pause here for a laugh line. And then I said, what the hell am I doing? And I realized that my eulogy really was selfish. So I may tell that story sometime, but it wasn't for her eulogy. And so when I went down and picked up my daughter, and we went to my cousin's house, and everybody else went to bed, I went into my cousin's living room, and I opened up my laptop, and I sat on the floor, and I wrote an entirely new eulogy while weeping. And I did that at her memorial service. But the thing about, burying your husbands and your brothers and your friends is that they can't be at your memorial service. They can't return the favor you did for them. And so it was really sparsely attended, which made me even sadder. And I'm using this piece for the show that I'm doing for Fringe Festival, but I wanted to do it here as well. I think it really kind of encapsulates my mom and what drove her to be the person she was. Mom pressed down on the gas, and I pressed back into my seat. She wasn't lead-footing it like my dad used to do. She was just driving up the road a piece. But this particular road happened to be in southwestern Pennsylvania, in my mom's hometown. Geographically, Belle Vernon, Pennsylvania is comprised of three parts: tops of hills, sides of hills, and the Monongahela River. We were on the second part, traveling up a slope so steep that you could tell if your neighbor's roof needed shingling just by looking out your kitchen window. We pushed on up past the houses, and the road changed from pavement to bumpy gravel, and then again to just a couple of ruts that cut through chest-high brush and bramble. And that opened up eventually into this little hilltop meadow, all green and pretty in the early summer sun. Mom put the car in park and peered out the windshield for a moment. There, she said at last, pointing to a spot that was identical to every other spot in the meadow, beside the creek. She said crick, not creek, and not beside, a side. Whenever we visited my mom's relatives, bits of Eleanor Louise Horrell Pinkowski Anderson, my mom, disappeared, and Ellie Lou Horrell showed up. Not that Ellie Lou was ever all that far away. I can't tell you how many times my mom told me to red up my room or pull the door to because my bedroom looked like a hoorah's nest. I don't know what a hoorah is, and neither did my mom, apart from it apparently being a bit of a slob. On this day, at my request, we were taking a tour of the places that my mom grew up. And there were a lot of places. We drove all over town with my mom providing the narrative. Most of the places, like this one, weren't there anymore. The ones that remained were uniformly dreary, dirty, and dilapidated. Pretty much exactly the way she remembered them. When you're in the family of an alcoholic growing up during the Great Depression, your housing options are pretty uniformly awful. Ironically, this pretty spot may have been the worst. That crick was our kitchen sink, our bathtub, and our toilet, she said, with no more emotion than if she was reciting a shopping list. No electric. Heat was a coal-fired burner. We lived there 9, 10 months, maybe a little more. I don't remember the exact year that this happened, but I think I was in grad school at the time, so that meant my mom's within a couple of years of my age right now. So if you're my age or younger, or maybe even a little bit older, think about your childhood. Picture your kitchen, your bathroom, your house. You may have more than one image because you moved. You might have even been in some pretty awful situations yourself. But I'm willing to bet everything in my wallet against everything in yours that at no time was your toilet an open stream. Or if it was because you were on vacation or a mission or something like that, and you knew that someplace else there was warmth and safety for you. And faucets. For you, it may have been an adventure. For my mom, it was hell. We stared out the windshield at the space where my mom's history was. And although we were looking at the same place, I know we were seeing entirely different times. That was the winter it snowed so much, she said. I went to bed crying one night because I didn't have snow pants and I knew that my legs were going to freeze the next day. Mom stayed up all night and cut and sewed her only coat into snow pants for me. She shook her head in amazement. She spent that entire winter inside that horrible little house so that I could go to school. We sat in silence for a while inside my mom's air-conditioned car. I mean, what is there to say to something like that? Eventually, I said, I wonder what happened to the house. My mom shrugged. Fell down, I suppose, she said, a hint of that Ridge Runner patois still in her voice. Most likely not long after we left, wasn't never much. She sighed and glanced at her watch. Oh, hey, we better get a move on, she said, backing the car up. Uncle Bill's getting dinner. We don't want to miss it. We're having raviolis. Happy Mother's Day, Mom. I love you.